Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery starring Jerry Springer, along with Gene Galvin and me. I'm Megan Hills. We're recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky.
My daddy came home.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Jerry Springer.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, seriously. Thank you. And here we are again on the banks of the Ohio.
The banks of the Ohio over on the Kentucky side at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky, where they just dropped some dishes. Hey, before we kind of really get into the heart of the podcast, I'm uneasy about something, and you know
What's
us,
that?
We're straight up about things. We don't pull the curtain in front of anything. We may have a legal problem, and hard as I try to keep everything right as
You're
a producer,
supposed to be able to handle this. What kind of legal problem we have?
Well, there is a woman who has been contacting me regularly.
I don't even know her.
No. Nothing like that. Shockingly,
okay.
Nothing like that. No, it's somebody who has been obviously tracking our podcast. That's the good news.
That's the good news.
She has
Good
an
for her.
organization called Podcast Watch. Sounds a little ominous to me.
Yeah.
Her name is, let me look here, Denise Compton.
Well,
She's been emailing me, and now David Pruce, our technical director, just told me she's called the show line. She somehow got the number of our show.
What is her problem? I mean, what is
The
why is she
issue
calling us?
is she's claiming that we are too biased, that it's too liberal, to be blunt. And
Well, that's the point.
Well, that's what I felt too. But the more she talks to me, and she's frankly making some threats about what she can do, and it all sounds kind of scary to me. And I'm to a point now where I would like to ask you, and she's on the phone on hold. Luckily, she can't hear anything I'm saying. But I'd like to ask you if you couldn't. And by the way, let's just say real fast, the way the structure of this podcast is, we do a little opening, we kind of gibberish around a bit, but then we always have what we call the red meat issue, and it's in the middle of the podcast.
Well, we
You
talk about a political
something.
issue, but
Usually
it's-
you, and we're
and it's
happy to have you
liberal.
do that. But I would like to ask, because I'm worried about our business plan, and I would like to ask, why couldn't you do what she's
We have
asking?
a business plan? What? Where did I? Yeah.
What? Well, maybe it's not written
Yeah.
down like the big boys
What
do it.
genius thought up this business model? You know how much it costs me just to fly into
Yeah.
Cincinnati and do
Yeah,
this
it's
show?
true.
And then I got to stay at a hotel?
Yeah. Boy, I'm
And
telling
then I
that
got to pay the
up as you're
people that work
talking.
on this show. How much
Yeah.
money you think this is
Yeah.
costing me? I'm not making a penny.
Right.
A business plan?
Well, look. Well, let's put it this way. If you would like to continue to burn your money every month, let's
This is the way to
do
do
what
it.
this woman is asking. Denise Compton.
she's complaining that we're too liberal?
She is asking, and I hate that way I'm sounding, but I'd like to join with her and ask you, I'm agreeing with her because I'm afraid of her, to be honest, that politically afraid of her. I've talked to her, you haven't, but if we could tone down some of that or go all Fox Newsy on them and do a little bit of liberal one day.
you-
do a little bit of
Are you insane?
conservative another day.
Put this woman...
Okay, can
Jane-
we put her on? Because maybe she can
This
make
is
the
not
case
the
better
Gene
than
Galvin
I
I
am
know.
on
Yeah.
her behalf. But let's see
What's
if
her
she...
name?
Denise Compton. Miss Compton, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm
That's her.
speaking
Hi,
with
Denise.
Gene or Jerry.
Yeah, this is Jerry Springer. Hi, Denise. Thanks for calling. And thanks for listening.
No, no problem. It's part of my job. So, Jerry, thanks for taking my call. I have a couple of concerns that I'd like to voice with you today.
Yeah.
As I believe you may, or your producers may have told you, we feel that your material is a bit, way too liberally biased, in fact. It's painful to listen to your podcast at times. So,
Have you taken-
what we would
have you
like to
taken
do,
any
and what
medicine?
I'm doing currently, is getting
It's a
some lawyers
liberal- it's a
together
liberal-
and
with all
going
due-
to Congress.
Yeah, it's biased. Of course it's biased. It's what I believe. It's a liberal point of view. It's close to truth. But anyway, it's a liberal point of view. And that's what it is. You know, you can, if you want to hear a right-wing point of view, you listen to Fox. But if you want something that's...
I fear you may have not heard something that I think
She
I just
thinks I'm
heard her
biased.
say.
Well, I am.
I thought I heard her say she may complain to Congress. That changes the situation, I think, drastically. Am I right, Ms. Compton? Because I know you've told me a number of times you're getting increasingly closer to going to Congress and trying to get a congressional hearing on this podcast. Is that accurate?
That is accurate,
see,
and
that's
I
what
think
scares
it's
me.
important, just as our responsibility of putting information out on the airwaves, that we do have a fair and a balanced approach to everything that we're listening to. I feel that your approach on this is simply irresponsible, Mr. Springer.
Well, you wouldn't be the first person to say that. But first of all, going to Congress, we're a podcast. This is America. This is my point of view. And the podcast is about what we believe. It's probably better for the country if you all did listen and follow some of the advice you're getting. But that's your decision. You don't have to listen to it. But you're going to go to Congress. First of all, what makes you think anything can get done if you go to Congress? Do you know who's in charge there?
Is it, Ms. Compton, and maybe I find myself joining hands with you on this, but
Oh, fine. You know what? You can take your business plan.
Well, Mr. Springer, I find out I'm calling you Mr. Springer. Jerry, why couldn't you do a podcast where you come out in favor of blowing the tops off of mountains and getting the coal out much more quickly and easily and helping those poor coal companies that make some profit?
So you want me to basically be dishonest? You want me to say things I don't believe?
I really hadn't thought that all the way through.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
I'm not saying that. You know what? I'm going to agree with you.
Can
you put
your
her on hold for a second?
Where your bread is
Put
buttered.
her on hold. Okay, she's on hold. Look, well, what am I doing? What am I
Right.
doing? I stand with
She
you.
can't go. Let her
We're
go
a couple
to
of-
Congress.
Let her listen to somebody else's podcast. Let's come out,
They don't
bring
have
her
any
back on, and
authority
let's
over
say to
this.
her, the answer is no.
We're
We're not changing this podcast.
Getting Congress to do that would be like having the government listening to our phone conversations.
That's never
This
going
is
to happen.
America. That could
would never
happen.
happen in America. Let's bring Miss Compton back on. Miss Compton, how are you?
I'm well, thank you for having me back.
I have a very clear position that we're taking. We've come to a conclusion. We will not change Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery. The Jerry Springer podcast will remain proudly liberal. And Jerry, we'll say this together: liberals always win.
Well, that
Thank
is-
you.
that is
And
simply
listen to this audience.
Oh my God!
And this,
You know,
and that,
it's clear I'm
and
not
that
gonna
is a
get
Foxy
anywhere with
News
you,
bunch of people
this
out there.
evening, on this phone call. But you will be hearing from my lawyers here in the near future.
Oh,
so you
man.
can look forward to that. In the meantime, Mr. Springer, in all actuality, your television show is something I think every American should see. And in that vein,
That's-
I would really appreciate it if you couldn't throw some tickets. I'm saying maybe 10, 15 tickets my way. I'd like to bring some of my family up. You can fly us up and put us up in a hotel. That'd be great. Up in Chicago, correct?
So
Yes.
yeah, it's in Chicago.
Let's put her.
Yeah.
Let's put Miss Compton on hold for a minute,
Yeah,
a second.
one-
We'll be
one
right back with you,
second.
Miss
That's
Compton.
she's
Okay,
negotiating.
now we're
That's-
negotiating. This is where we wanted to be.
She wants to go to the show in Chicago. We haven't been in Chicago for 5 years.
Give
We're in
her the-
Stamford, Connecticut.
Okay,
we'll
okay,
send
we'll
her to
tell her,
Chicago.
send her to Chicago.
She'll be staying at a hotel there.
That's
She'll
a
be
good
looking
idea.
around.
And that-
Just
okay,
ask
let's
any
give-
taxi
let's give
cab
her-
driver. Yeah.
Let's give her 3 tickets.
She's got 3. Give
Bus
her
fare.
4.
Give her 4.
4 tickets because
Travel
what if she
around
brings-
the city on
she wants to
buses.
bring a date
And
then
give her a
another
backstage
couple.
pass, because that costs us nothing, a backstage pass.
Backstage pass.
Okay, you don't burn any of your money to do a backstage pass to
No.
your TV
No,
show.
I burn all my
Just
money
burn
on
all your
this.
money on this. Okay, let's bring Miss Compton back
Miss
on.
Compton?
Hi, Miss Compton. How are you?
Yeah, you know
I'm
what?
well, thank you. Have you given consideration to my request?
Yeah, and are you? Well, first let me find this out. Are you saying that you will reconsider going to Congress with this if you get tickets to my show?
No, I'm not saying I would reconsider, but I figured since I made this phone call, I may as well try.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I'll just show you how liberal I am. We would love to have you see the show, and you want
that's
you want to
fantastic.
come to Chicago, right?
Correct. At Chicago. I
Well,
can be there next
yes.
month, in fact.
Well, you can certainly come to Chicago, and then maybe one day you can see the show. So
That would be lovely.
we're going to send you we'll send you 4 tickets.
4 tickets. I'll do it.
Yeah,
because I'm
and
your people. I'm
you're
your
my
people. I'll take care
yeah,
of it.
and we'll put you up there, and then when you go down into the lobby and ask any cab driver how to get to the Jerry Springer Show.
That's it. Thank you very much,
That's
Miss Compton.
excellent. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
and enjoy your stay in Chicago. Thank you.
That was
okay.
great.
Well, there it is. I mean, that was not a big deal.
Oh, yeah,
and
but
it'll be like she'll, be walking
That was
around
loony.
asking
That
people,
was
how do
loony.
you find the
How do
Jerry
you-
Springer Show?
And there are people that really think that you can get the government to tell the podcast what you can do.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and I know you would agree. You agree. You sat there, Megan, listened to all this, and I was watching your eyes, and they were like, "What the heck is with her?"
Although I thought it was great that she wanted to see your show. All Americans should see your show.
Yeah,
well, what's
that
wrong
is
with that? That
bizarre.
was the most
Well,
sensible thing she said.
Ladies
If more
lost
people
it.
would watch the show, they would know what not to do.
Well, there is some truth to that.
Yeah.
Now, boy, Jared, did you notice Gallup has been
Yeah.
busy these days, running a lot of polls that are, and they just do polls. They
They don't just run polls; they also run a few Czechoslovakians. I'll tell you that.
Let's see,
we're
that's
back
so
to that
cheap.
one again, are we?
That's so cheap.
That one again. Okay.
But they tell us about and your reaction to a poll that came out that deals with the very tricky, thorny topic that America's been dealing with for many years: abortion.
Right.
And the right of a woman to choose what to do with her own body. So tell a little bit about the survey that was done and your take on how this is
This is
evolving.
kind of interesting, but it is consistent what we say here every week. Now, for the first time in many years, more Americans identify themselves as pro-choice than a right to life. And what I mean by that is when they say pro-choice, they mean a woman has a right to make the decision. They're not saying abortion is legal just in case to preserve the life of the woman or in cases of rape or something like that. They're saying it's a woman's decision. And more people now in America are taking that position than are taking the position of right to life. Now, I don't want to use this as a platform on, obviously I'm pro-choice. The point of what I'm going to talk about now is not what position people ought to take. It's more that this is further evidence that ultimately liberals always win because the only thing that is consistent with a free society is that free people will ultimately have the power to make free choices about their lives. That is inevitable. It is why every social issue you can point to in the last 100 years, every generation is more liberal than their parents. And so it keeps getting more and more liberal. So ultimately, that's what I keep saying. For those of my friends who are liberal, don't get too discouraged. Eventually we win. There are some battles along the way, but eventually we will win. And we certainly win on this issue too, because it is the only thing that is consistent with a free society. Now, here's the point I'd like to make. The debate is always on the wrong question, because the discussion always starts out, when does life begin? Catholics say life begins at conception. Protestants say life begins at birth. Jews say life begins when the kids leave home. Now, but the real issue, the real question.
Just felt that there was some need for some comic relief
I had
there.
to throw that in there.
That was
Because that's what we call gratuitous.
See, here's what I do. I first write out some jokes, and then I see what can I talk about where the joke would work. No. Okay. All right. The question of when life begins is irrelevant to the discussion of abortion, and I'll tell you why. Life begins at conception. That is a scientific fact. Life begins at conception. If you have conception and you do nothing else, it will grow and develop. That is the definition of a life. The real question, which we don't talk about, but which is the ultimate question, is when does a human being begin? And when a human being begins is not a scientific question. That's a philosophical question based on our own personal beliefs, our religious beliefs, our non-religious beliefs, our morality, whatever. Your personal philosophical beliefs will determine when you believe a human being begins, when you have a human being. So get off the question of when a life begins. It's when a human being begins. Now, even those people who are diehard right to life, anti-abortion under any circumstances, or almost any circumstances, I would say 95% of Americans really deep down believe the question is, when does a human being begin? And I'll tell you why. I'll give you an example. If you heard that down at the end of the block on which you live, God forbid, there's this 2-year-old girl that lives there, a gorgeous little toddler, lovely kid, plays out in the yard every day, and God forbid, horrible, you heard that someone knifed her to death one night. And then they caught the person. Virtually everyone in America would have the belief that that person ought to spend the rest of his or her days in prison. If you believed in the death penalty, you'd say death penalty, but that's murder. You kill a 2-year-old girl, you go the death penalty or the rest of your life in prison. And virtually everyone would have that position. We don't even think twice about it. Of course, my God, you knifed that girl? Yeah. Now, later on, the next week, you're at a cocktail party or coffee in your neighborhood. And one of the friends, one of the people, 20-something, and she's a friend of your daughter or whatever, or your son, and she says in some private conversation, she says, back when I was 17, I was in a tough situation and I had an abortion. Nobody, virtually nobody believes that you should immediately call the police and this person ought to get the death penalty or spend the rest of their life in prison. You don't really believe that. Even if you're opposed to abortion and you heard that some kid back when she was 17 or 16 had an abortion, you don't really think she ought to get the death penalty. We don't really think she ought to go to prison the rest of her life. And then you have to ask yourself the question, if you don't believe that, why is it? It's because deep down, we philosophically really do distinguish between a fetus and a human being that's already born. Now, when exactly do you go from a fetus to a human being? I don't know. It's a personal, philosophical, religious decision. And because it's a philosophical, personal decision, since it's not scientific, since it's just based on your thought processes, how you were raised, what you believe, we'll each have a little bit of a different. Someone will say, maybe 5 months. Maybe it's got to be birth. Maybe it's, if it's already can survive on its own, whatever. We'll all see, it's philosophical. It's personal. And that's why, in a free society, it has to be pro-choice, because it's philosophical. And that is why, inevitably, in this free society we call America, that pro-choice will ultimately be the rule and the acceptance of the day.
All right. Thanks, Jerry. That's a tough issue.
I still think it's when the kids leave home.
Yes. And I just thought of something, and it doesn't really connect to this, but when you're not on hiatus, let's say take your normal work situation, your work week, I think I know the answer to this, but it's so stunning, I'd like to just draw it out of you for a second. Your work week starts the same as you, Megan, and I, on a Monday morning.
The three of us do the same thing. We go to the airport and get on our planes.
Morning, we go to work. Then, Megan, you and I, by Friday, maybe 7 o'clock, we're dragging ourselves to our respective homes. Tired, worked hard all week.
Yep, sat in traffic, didn't have an airplane.
Oh, my gosh. Worked hard, we're tired, and we can't wait for that weekend. Your work week ends, if I'm not mistaken, at about 3 o'clock on Tuesday.
You're mistaken.
I'll be
It's 1 o'clock on
Just
Tuesday.
school me.
Just like you were with the business plan.
When does your work week end? 3:30?
Of that show, which you never miss. And you
I love that show. I love that show.
Oh,
Never seen it.
What is that? Hold on.
I've never seen it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Megan, you've never seen.
I've never seen.
Hold
an
on a
episode of
second,
it.
Megan.
I've
look
seen
at me,
Baggage.
Megan. You have never
That's
seen.
what people now say as a defense. I've seen baggage.
Yeah, yeah, like that. Megan.
I'm serious.
You have never seen the
I
Jerry
swear
Springer?
I've never seen one.
Well, how? Why? I mean, what's the deal? It's like it's
Just-
like a thing.
Well, I work
like
during
a,
the day, so I don't. I'm not at home. So I'm not at home, and like when I
But
just,
you were in your college friends all watched, didn't they? The Jerry Springer show.
I'm sure
Oh,
they
you-
did. Yeah, I don't
had
know.
no friends.
Well, that's also true.
That's interesting that
I'll
you've
send
never
you
seen
the tape.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm solid.
The Too Hot for TV. Oh.
No, but Baggage is really cute. I
Oh,
like that.
baggage is unbelievable.
The Jerry Springer show is nothing like Baggage. It's much better.
Better.
It's much
I know
better.
what it
Much
is.
better.
And,
Yeah.
you can't. It's culturally, you can't escape it. I know what the format of it is and stuff like that. But I've never sat through and watched an
Yeah.
episode of it.
Last week we talked about the impact of inflation on the world bond market.
You did not.
It was unbelievable.
You absolutely did not.
There is.
The guests were naked when they were talking.
From what I understand, they throw things.
Yes.
But yeah, no, never sat through an actual.
There is, by
episode.
the way, I've gone from motorcycle riding to cycling. So I got this bike called a felt bike, and there is a part you can buy an accessory called the Jerry Springer fork. That's what it's called, the Jerry Springer fork. I don't know
Do you
why.
get any royalties for
but
that?
that's how far your ruination of the American culture has fingers that reach
penetrated
penetrated
the
into
entire society.
products. Hey, when does your work week?
What did you say? A fork?
A fork,
Oh,
like
a
the fork.
fork.
The fork, Wait, what do you think? Like fork? No, I'm saying the fork of the bike over the top.
What is that?
Hey,
Really-
you record 3 shows on Monday, and then how many on Tuesday?
2 on Tuesday. That's the actual tapings.
Yes.
But then we're like in 206 markets in
Yeah.
the country. So you're constantly talking with general managers and salespeople
Yeah,
from different.
your
countries.
people work hard. Your producer is different from me. I produce this.
Yeah.
They work hard
Gene
all
does
week
They
long.
do, and they
No.
know not to wake me because there's a couch in my office where I can nap.
That's true. But the fact is, at about 3 o'clock, you're on your
With that
Gulfstream
show.
flying over America back to one of
Coming
your
to do
7
this
houses.
stupid forgotten thing.
Hey, wait a second.
Yeah. With your business plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
And
you have a business plan for
It's a
this.
wonderful business
It
plan.
is.
So you do this. Yeah. And then, baggage.
No,
and-
actually, you work.
Oh, it's
hey, no,
unbelievable.
you actually work very hard. Let's
Oh.
hear it for Jerry Springer. What's
No,
the hardest working man in show business?
Please.
Hey, let's talk some music here.
Yes.
We have
You've
Lonesome
never
Jared
listened to the
performing
pod-
tonight.
the show?
And that the Jared refers to Jared Schaedle, and then he's on guitar, and then joining him also on guitar is Nick Giese, and they're going to do a song, and then we're going to talk to you a little bit about it, talk about your website, and etc. But take us into it.
Gotta shake this feeling, 'cause it sure is killing me. I'm getting sick of dealing with the cold and chilling breeze. When I'm getting knocked down, wishing my baby was around.
great. That was great.
That's Lonesome Jared, and I think Nick's fingers are bleeding, I'm pretty sure, and
Oh, you must have some calluses on those tips, huh?
that's good stuff.
Very good.
Hey, Jared, first of all, you wrote that song, right?
Yes, sir.
And what was the inspiration for that?
About a woman that was giving me the cold shoulder, so
All right.
I was missing her.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Well, do you guys have a website where people can see other things you're doing?
Well, we're on Facebook and Reverb Nation. Just type in Jared Schaedle and the Compound Fractures on Google, and
Okay.
you'll find everything you need. Free
Compound
music.
fracture. I love it.
We're all over YouTube and all that. So
Perfect.
places to hear us and see us.
And you are centered out of Cincinnati, correct?
Right.
Like, where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Delhi. He grew up in what's that? Deer Park. Deer Park.
Okay, so
yeah.
a couple
This is from,
Cincinnati
Pleasant
neighborhoods
Plain,
and
Ohio.
local guys. Can you take us out on Irene Goodnight?
We can do that.
Wait,
We
let
would
me
love
look up
it.
the words here.
Yeah. And Jerry's going to jump in on this with you if you don't mind. Whenever you're ready.
You want to take a verse on this, Jerry? Is that what's going on?
He
Yeah,
will.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look at
You'll
you.
notice when I'm singing.
Irene, good night. Irene, good night.
You've been listening to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, sponsored by the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky. Thanks to Patrick Kennedy for writing our opening song, and to you for listening. Hope to see y'all again real soon.
Could it be? I would give you everything. Woman, why don't you want me? Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll get you in my dreams. Come on, Cherry.
Well, sometimes I live in the country, and sometimes I live in town. Sometimes I take a great notion to jump in the river and drown.
Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll get you in my dreams. I thought we was happy together. Maybe you just got bored. Well, I wish, dear Lord, I had never seen your face. I wish I had never been born. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll get you in my dreams. I love Irene, God knows I do, till the sea runs dry. And if she turns her back on me, I'm gonna lay down and die. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll get you in my dreams once more. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll get you in my dreams.
Y'all come back now.